Hey everybody, this is Maxine Taylor with another edition of Move into the Magic. And my guest today is a dear friend of mine, Catherine Carrigan. And if you've been listening to my shows, you know that I have interviewed Catherine several times so that she could share her incredible talent and wisdom with all of us. She is a #1 best-selling author on Amazon, and her books, I'm going to read them because I don't have them memorized yet. Banish the Blues Now. Awesome book. Unlimited Energy. Now, we can all use more energy, right? What is healing? The title of that book is so simple. It is deceptively simple. It is one of the best books on healing that I've ever read because Catherine gets right to the point. She doesn't use lots and lots of different words. She tells it. It's just wonderful. Awaken your intuitive power for health and happiness. And today, she is going to share her latest book with us called Unlimited Intuition Now. And before we actually begin, I want to give you her contact information because once we get started, we may never get to it. In order to get to Catherine, just go to her website, CatherineCarrigan.com, and I'm going to spell that for you. CatherineCarrigan, CatherineCarrigan.com. Catherine, welcome to Move Into the Magic.
Thank you so much, Maxine, and thank you everyone out there for listening and watching. And I also want to offer all the listeners and watchers a free 15-minute consult with me. You can email me at Catherine with a C at CatherineCarrigan.com and set up an appointment. I'd be happy to talk to you about what's going on with you. So thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And of course, I know your style. The thing I love about your style is you get right to it. I said that earlier, but I really appreciate that because if I'm up on something and I need an answer, I don't want to have to wade through paragraphs and pages and chapters. It is so simple and so easy to follow your books. And I encourage everybody to go to Amazon and order a copy of Catherine's books. You will adore them. Her insight, first of all, she is a medical intuitive. And when she works with you, she's going to zoom right in on what's going on with you. She's also a master yoga instructor, which means she knows the body. So Catherine, this newest book, Unlimited Intuition Now, why did you decide to write this latest book?
Well, I wrote this book, Maxine, in order to empower people because throughout our lives, we all have choices to make. We have big decisions to mull over. And there's a lot of ways to make choices and make decisions. We can research. We can get on the internet. We can read books. We can ask other people's opinions. We can rely on the decades of experience that we have. But when you do these things, you're relying either on your own ego mind or on the ego perception of other people.
Oh.
But when we go into our own soul knowing and our own soul's perceptions, we are able to access a much broader level of information. What we know now is, and scientists will confirm this, is that only 4% of the known universe can be measured or quantified in any way. So there's this 96% of the known universe that cannot be quantified or measured. This is the intangible. And your soul perceives from this broader perspective and has access to a broader range of information. So in a nutshell, I wrote my 5th book, Unlimited Intuition Now, in order to empower people to make choices and make big decisions from the level of their soul. And when you make decisions from the level of your soul, you're going to make decisions for the highest good of yourself and for the highest best interest of everyone.
Oh, Beautifully put, beautifully put. I think everybody in our audience wants that. And since all of us have intuition, and many of the people in our audience are healers and intuitives, I think they understand exactly what you're saying. And what I have found is that even if you are a medical intuitive yourself, even if you are an energy healer, sometimes the way a person says something or writes it opens something in your own mind, and you hear it again for the first time. So I hope you all will enjoy what Catherine has to share. Now, in your book, you've written several things that were intriguing. First of all, you have talked about the fact that there are 4 primary psychic gifts that we have. And I'm assuming that some of us have 1 specialty, maybe 2. Will you, first of all, tell us what they are and explain and maybe share a story or 2 about them?
Absolutely. Well, if you think about my latest book, this is my 5th book, Unlimited Intuition Now. A really good way to describe it, if you will, it's like a cookbook. So if you open a cookbook, you think, maybe I need a recipe for a main dish, or I want a dessert, or let's find a new soup or a new beverage or something. And basically in my book, I teach all kinds of different ways of getting intuitive information, whether it's how to read your own body, how to tell whether food is right for you, how to tell whether supplements are right for you, how to do a medical intuitive reading on another person, how to open up your own prophetic knowing, your own clairaudience or psychic hearing, how to access your psychic feeling. So there's a lot of different methods or techniques. Just like you go, I'm trying to stay off sugar and I don't really want to do the desserts, but I really want to get a new vegetable recipe. So my prayer is that as you read this book, that you'll find some techniques and approaches, how to talk to your angels, how to get quick information, how to get guidance, how to tell if you're safe, that are going to help you very practically in your everyday life, and also on making some of these big decisions that weigh on us. So to answer your question, Maxine, in a nutshell, there's 4 primary psychic gifts. And it's my belief and experience, because I actually train many people to open these gifts and to learn how to access them in your own life. So there's 4 primary psychic gifts. And there's going to be some that are easier for you to develop. So big picture, you have 1 gift primarily that you use for your soul. It's your primary gift. It may come most easily for you. It's the one that you're most comfortable with. Then you have another psychic gift that you use primarily for getting information about your body and your own health. Then you have another gift that you use primarily for getting information about your family and the people in your home. And then there's another gift that you use primarily in your work. So let me give you the bullet points on what these gifts are.
Yes.
Let's talk more about them. All right, so the 2 most common psychic gifts are the gift of psychic feeling, also called clairsentience, and the gift of psychic vision, also called clairvoyance. Now, the 2 more uncommon gifts are clairaudience, which is the gift of psychic hearing, so you hear things, and finally the gift of claircognizance, or the prophetic gift, which is the fastest gift. I am a prophetic. I have the gift of claircognizance. So usually when people talk to me, I get things very, very quickly. And it seems when I'm talking to you and I'm doing a medical intuitive reading or medical intuitive healing, it happens really, really quick, and it comes off in a real conversational way. Sometimes I'll tell people, just hold on a minute, give me a moment, and I'm tuning in and I'm focusing. So let me give you some examples of these gifts. So starting with clairsentience, which is the gift of psychic feeling. Now you're going to use this gift when you pick up the vibe or the feeling of a room, or the vibe and the feelings when you're reading the energy and emotions of other people. You use this gift when you're reading from your third chakra, which is your solar plexus. So it's in your diaphragm area. So all the gifts have an upside and a downside. The upside of being a feeler, of being high in clairsentience, feeler people are usually extremely sweet. They're very good people. I've never seen any of my feeler clients be intentionally rude to anyone, because they're always really tuned in to how everybody is feeling. The downside of being a feeler is often their own mood and their own energy and emotions is highly dependent on how everyone else is feeling. And there's a lot of difficulty among feelers of discerning, this is how I feel, this is how you feel. And when I'm talking to feelers, one of the things that I say is, if my hand is on a hot stove and my hand feels hot, then I know the problem is the stove. It's not my hand. And if I just remove my hand is not going to be hot anymore. So feelers generally have trouble with discernment and having, they need to establish better psychic boundaries with the people in their lives. A lot of times feelers can be processing energy, emotion, and emotions that are not them. So for example, I'll have a client and they're feeling a certain way and it's not really their feelings. They're processing the feelings of their husband, of their daughter, or of someone else. This is very, very common among the feelers. Now the clairvoyant gift, this is the gift that people use to see auras. This is the gift that medical intuitives use in order to see in the body, to see organs, to see the cells, to see the bones, to see what's happening, to see angels. But another way of thinking about this, it's being able to see the details and the big picture at the same time, to allow your soul to zoom in on whatever it is that you really need to perceive in any given moment. Now, the upside of the clairvoyant gift, these people are very good at making the world beautiful. They're fashion designers, they're interior designers, they're artists, they're photographers, they're graphic designers. The downside of the clairvoyant people is they can get stuck in their picture. So for example, if you're high in clairvoyance, and you're a librarian, and your whole life for 20 years, you've been going to the library, you show up at 8:30 with your brown paper bag, at 12 o'clock you have your peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and at 5 o'clock you leave. And then suddenly one day they say, we're closing the library. Well, these people have trouble changing their picture. So one of the things that's really helpful for people who are high in clairvoyance is to create two pictures. So for example, if I'm working with someone, a woman, and they're trying to decide whether or not to have children, I'll say, I want you to visualize your life, and in one picture, you have what you think you want. You have your child. You raise the child, and you visualize yourself from now until the end of your life being happy with a child, seeing this person grow up into adulthood. And then you have the second picture where you don't have what you think you want. And you see yourself from now into the end of your life without that child, and yet you still see yourself happy. So with the clairvoyance, what they need to do is realize that life has more than one option. You could be happy as a fisherman, you could be happy as an astronaut, you can be happy in all different kinds of ways, so you don't get stuck in your picture. And the clairvoyants frequently have difficulty making transitions because they're so stuck in their picture. Now, now we're talking about the gift of clairaudience. Now, the other two gifts are pretty fast. The gift of clairaudience and the gift of claircognizance. I remember a long time ago when someone was explaining to me about my gift of claircognizance, they explained to me, they said, if it takes you longer than 30 seconds, it's wrong. And usually as people, we're encouraged think things over. I want you to really think about this and cognitate on this. And the problem is that when you have these very fast gifts, the information will drop in very, very quickly. And if you overthink it, it's your ego getting in the way and messing with the information. So clairaudience is also a pretty fast gift. People who are high in clairaudience make very good public speakers. They're very good at channeling and writing. So a lot of times these are our authors or our musicians or our sound engineers. And they pick up information in terms of words, like they'll actually hear the voices of angels, or they'll hear their spiritual guides, or they also pick up information literally in terms of vibration, because sound, as you know, Maxine, is vibration. So I remember years ago, I had a client who was actually a minister, and he was a great public speaker, but he would become affected by earthquakes in South America, which I remember thinking that's even a little bit weird for me. But he was so sensitive to vibration that he was picking up all kinds of vibrations. So people who are high in clairaudience are very sensitive to sound, and they can either be healed by music or they need a lot of silence in their lives. So one of the things about the clairaudient people is because they get the information pretty quickly, they can tend to be blunt. And in other words, the information comes in so quickly to them, they don't have time to sort of filter through and put it into words that feel good to the other people. So these people can be a little bit brusque, but they're usually fast on their feet and are great public speakers. Now, the last psychic gift is the one that's more unusual. I'm claircognizant. This is the same gift. Many people have heard of Edgar Casey. He was claircognizant. So the gift of claircognizance or psychic knowing or prophetic knowing is where you just know stuff that you have no possible way of knowing. So I remember years ago, one of my clients was trying to decide, she was moving to Colorado and she was trying to decide whether or not to buy a house, right? And I was sitting there, we were working over the phone, and she was in Colorado telling me about this house. And I started getting information about the roof. And I knew for a fact that I was channeling the information because, believe me, I know nothing about roofing. So a lot of times when you're using this claircognizant gift, you're getting information about subjects that you have no way of knowing about. And it's easy initially when you're claircognizant to doubt yourself or doubt the information. And that's part of why when I'm working with people, I like to help you understand what your primary gifts are and what you use in each area. So for example, my soul gift is this gift of claircognizance. One of the things about being claircognizant is a lot of times you can have difficulty with timing, and that you get information very, very fast, and sometimes before other people are ready to hear it. So this is why it's called the prophetic gift, because you hear things ahead of time, again, with no advance warning, with no supporting information. So having been in relationships with people who understand this about me, a lot of times I remember when I bought the house that I live in now, the house that I've lived in for 17 years, I remember going through a stack of papers, and I was sitting there on a Saturday evening at a restaurant, just flipping the pages, and then suddenly, I remember, I never forget, I saw a photograph of this front door, and there was a photograph with a pot of geraniums beside the front door. I had no idea where the house was. All I saw was the front door with a pot of geraniums, and I'd probably looked at maybe 50 photographs, and I remember saying, "That's my house." And the person sitting next to me said, "What do you mean that's your house?" Well, it's my house. And the next day I went to see it and it's my house. So this prophetic gift comes in very quickly. And a lot of times other people are not ready for it. One of the things that I'm always saying to my clients is I'm nice but blunt, and understand that I'm speaking to you for your highest good. But because I get information so quickly, a lot of times I have to get the information and then pause to think about how to say this gently and kindly in a way that the other person can process and assimilate and make their own.
That's excellent. That is excellent. I wanted to ask you something, or to share something that I think a lot of people experience, because as we know, every one of us has a gut feeling about this, that, or the other.
Mm-hmm.
What I found is that many people do not trust what they're getting. And even at the beginning, when a new talent is developing,
Mm-hmm.
Your left brain can come in and say, oh, that couldn't possibly be.
Mm-hmm.
And what I have finally been able to do over the years is trust whatever I get, whether I'm seeing something or I'm hearing something. Years ago, when I was studying auras, this is during the time that Edgar Cayce was all the rage, I could literally see them.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized I didn't want to see them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked that be removed. Now it's not as important to me to actually see the aura. But I trusted what I saw, because it was at that point, the clairvoyance was truly clairvoyance. Now I see things in my mind's eye,
mm-hmm.
which, and a lot of people may have that same ability, and they doubt themselves because they're not literally seeing it like it's standing there right in front of them. Will you elaborate on that to encourage people?
Yes. Well, here's what I have to say about it. Your soul is the most important part of you. Your soul has a purpose for being here in this lifetime, and your soul is going to try and get through to you in whatever ways necessary. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when we're not at peace within ourselves, a lot of the times when we're in inner turmoil, it is because we're not actually listening to our soul. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So if you're not at peace, more than likely it's because there's some departure that you are experiencing from what your soul is trying to guide you to do. And in my book, I talk about all different kinds of blocks and resistance that people have to their guidance. And it's important to understand that one of the blessings of being born a human is that you have this soul, and you just have to understand that your soul has this ability to perceive and access information far beyond what you can ever learn. Now, personally, I went to an Ivy League college. I was Phi Beta Kappa. I like to learn. I value intellectual property. And yet, at the same time, as much as I value learning, and I'm always studying something, I understand that this soul perception goes far beyond all this. But in my book, I actually discuss exactly what you're talking about, Maxine, because one of the things that I talk about is that your ability to trust information that your soul has to give you has a lot to do with your relationship with yourself. And there's 4 primary dramas that people can be doing with themselves. The first one is poor me. So poor me is the victim, And one of the problems with being poor me is if you're the victim, you go from one victim experience to another, and woe is me and life sucks, and
absolutely,
it's just a veil of sorrow and so on. Now, There's also the interrogator, which is, where were you on the night of 15th, Friday the 13th,
Uh-huh.
right?
Uh-huh.
And the interrogator is always probing and looking for what's wrong. It's like, if you get information, it's like, could that, that's probably not true. And then there's the intimidator, which is very similar to the interrogator, but the intimidator is the bully, right? Right? Okay. And then there is aloof, and aloof is just, another way to think of aloof is disconnected, right? Not integrated, not present, not in your body, not connected to your soul, not connected to your feelings. So these are basically ego dramas, and they get in the way of our soul guidance. So as you do the inner work, and I do a lot of healing with people to help them get to the point where they trust their soul, because I always say your soul, the divine only has to hit you over the head when you're not paying attention. When we pay attention, then your soul can guide your life gracefully, easily. Even when you make transitions, you can go through them with relative grace and ease because you're listening. And if your life has been extremely difficult, and if there's been a lot of friction, it's because you're not actually listening at the soul level as carefully as you could, if that makes sense. So in my mind, that as we develop a better relationship with ourselves, right?
Yes.
Because when you let go of the victim, when you let go of the interrogator and the intimidator and aloof, basically what you're left with is this healthy relationship with your true self. And your true self is really your soul. It's who you are. It's this eternal being who happens to have a body and experience emotions. And you have this blessing of being incarnated in this body in this lifetime for a very precious reason, even if you don't know what it is yet. And yet, if you listen at a very careful level to your soul is going to guide you. Your soul is always trying to guide you to your highest good. Your soul is always trying to guide you to the people, places, and information for your highest good, for your service, for the service of all. And so when we take the time to connect to this true eternal part of you, then your life becomes transcendent and graceful and happy and joyous and purposeful and meaningful. And that's why I wrote this book. I have to say, of all my books that I've written, I have to say this was my favorite one because it's a subject so dear to my heart. Teaching people how to have more energy, teaching people how to, get off antidepressants and be happy without drugs. Those are things that I do. Teaching people how to heal themselves is what I do. But what makes me really happy is to teach people how to connect really deeply to your soul. And as you do this, your life is you're going to operate from this totally different perspective, which is very blessed.
I agree with you. You mentioned something that's very, very dear to me, and I think to every healer out there. As human, as spirit in earthbound bodies, we function on an emotional level that we may or may not be aware of. And the way I look at any kind of physical problem is it's emotion based. And so if you know what the issue is, you can identify what the problem is. It's very simple to say, but when you're in the middle of it, it's not always that easy. You do a lot of work with muscle testing in order to help people get in touch with their own bodies. And I think the greatest gift you can give yourself is to be your own healer. So Will you elaborate on that for us, please, about the muscle testing, the importance of muscle testing, and how to identify the causes of these issues that we as spirit in earthbound bodies experience? A lot of healers say, and I've gone through this too. I had to work through this. Well, if I'm a healer, I can't be sick. No, 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 no. Number one, when you're sick, you develop empathy for people, you compassion, you understand, and the physical body is the lowest manifestation of that. And a lot of people out there who are marvelous healers are holding back because they have a problem with their own bodies. Please elaborate on that.
Okay, well, you brought up several wonderful points. First of all, I do a lot of healing work, both in person and distantly. I have clients in Australia and England, all over the U.S., and I speak English, so that's my one block. I've worked with people in Saudi Arabia and India, but so whenever I'm working with someone, whether it's to clear your money issues or a health issue or an emotional block, we have a goal. And then the second thing I do whether it's, I let go of cancer, the second thing I do is I find the emotion or emotions that are causing that. Now, it's very important to understand that our feelings, our emotions are vibrations. And that vibratory pattern is what keeps the illness in place. So it's very important to understand when you become diseased or when you become sick, illness always begins in the spiritual body and then comes in towards the physical. And when you understand that, when you want to overcome illness or disease, it has to be pushed out from the physical through the energy body, which includes your chakras, your acupuncture meridians, and your breath, through the emotional body, which includes all your feelings, through the mental body, which includes your stinking thinking, your thoughts, your beliefs, whether they're true or not true, and then all the way through that soul level. So again, to review, illness comes in through the spiritual, through the mental, through the emotional, through the energetic, into the physical, and then to go out, it's got to go from the physical, energetic, emotional, mental, spiritual, out that way. So our emotions are part of any disease, and any disease or illness is always happening simultaneously on all 5 levels. There is no such thing as any disease or illness that is not also happening on the physical, energetic, emotional, mental, and spiritual. It's always happening on all 5 levels. So when I'm doing a healing, I start with the problem and we put it into a positive statement. We find the emotion. Then I find the age or ages at which this pattern started. So I'll find your chronological age, maybe you're 50 or what have you. And then I'm going to go backwards all throughout your lifetime to the time of your birth, to conception, to any pattern that started into a past life. So we find the age or ages at which the pattern began. And then I look for more information. Did it start with something with your family? Were you taught this? Is it something to do with your environment? Are you taking something, a substance that doesn't agree with you, whether it's a drug or a natural remedy? And are there any other informations? Then we go through all the systems of the body, all the physical system, your immune system, the bones, the muscles, every organ system, your body intelligences, parts of the brain, and then what will actually work to clear the issue. But, getting back to your point, emotions are huge for healing illness. And if you are suffering from any major illness, my recommendation to you is to work with a healer highly trained to help you identify the emotion and not just talk about it. Because if you just spend a lot of time talking about your feeling, talking about how depressed you are, talking about how anxious you are, all you're doing is keeping that vibration in the place. So what you want to do is you want to find the emotion and then clear it all the way out. And we have to realize that it's okay to spend some time talking. And I'm a big believer in therapy, and talk therapists definitely serve their purpose. But at a certain point, you want to stop talking about it and shift the energy and shift the vibration out of it. Does that help?
The question that I have found, or the answer to the question that I have found is, and this is my mantra: when I'm happy, I'm healthy.
Absolutely.
And I tell that to my healing clients, and I tell it to my students. The minute, I'm bringing that back to healer, heal thyself.
Right.
What I found is in understanding what the issue is that is unresolved within me.
Mm-hmm.
And as a healer, it's okay to have issues. I always say, if I were perfect, I wouldn't be down here with the rest of you guys.
Exactly. Well, you know,
If you're happy, you're healthy. So find out what is causing you unhappiness. And that is the simplest thing. I know that I'm preaching to the choir here because you and I have talked so many times, but I think that that's something that a lot of wonderful healers don't understand, and they're holding themselves back.
Yeah, well, what I would say is that it's I like to make things simple, because what I work with what I refer to as actual humans, okay? You know, people from all walks of life. Today, I worked with a lady who was a checker at Walmart, and I really admired her because she wants to get better. And we were talking about what she needs to do in order to feel better. I just totally salute her. So, and yet at the same time, I'll work with somebody who's a CEO. So we have to understand that all illness and all disease is slowed down vibration. So if you want to get better, part of what you have to do is shift your vibration. So if you stay in that slowed down vibration and complain and feel miserable, you're staying sick. So one of the simple questions to ask yourself is, what do I need to do to shift my vibration? And I know for myself, like you said, we're all human. Everyone has a physical body. Everybody has an energy body. Everybody has an emotional body, a mental body, and a spiritual body. And I know for myself, I'm always doing my inner work, because when I don't do my work, or if there's something that I don't clean out, it's going to show up in my physical, right? So I'm always paying attention, always looking for my next growth opportunity. Yeah. And at the same time, I'm also looking at, what do I need to do to surround myself with joy and light? Because that's gonna what makes me healthy. And that's why my studio is full of orchids, and why my dog is there, and it's a very happy place, and we laugh a lot, because that's what makes health and healing.
Talk a little bit, if you would, about muscle testing.
Okay. Well, muscle testing is just one way of receiving information from your guidance. Some people like to use a pendulum, and even I've had people ask me, what's the difference between using a pendulum and muscle testing? You're basically, whatever the method is, you're asking source. You can use your body as a pendulum. But the truth is that different techniques work better for different people, and really all you have to do is find a technique that works for you. So I'm going to, but first I have to say, whether you're dowsing or using muscle testing, in order to get accurate information, you have to be in what's called neutral. Now, if you're in an emotional state, if you're fine, if you're fouled up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional, you are not neutral. So, and part of the discernment is to know what you're capable of being neutral about, okay? So if there's a subject that I'm really worked up on, then I know that I'm not in neutral, and I'm going to talk to one of my friends who's a healer who I know is capable of being neutral on my behalf. So even though I'm a highly trained healer myself, I also work with a coach and a healer, because there are subjects, because I'm a human, that I just get so worked up about that I'm not capable of seeing clearly about. So in kinesiology, there's something called the Johari window. The Johari window is basically what you don't know about yourself that other people don't know about you, and that's where all the juice is. Most of us who are highly informed, self-actualized people, if there's something that we know about, we're going to be doing something about that, right? But it's that window where you don't know and other people don't know. That's that hidden aspect. That's where we need to ask guidance. And if we can't be neutral, we need to get somebody who's capable of being neutral about. So the first caveat is, in order to muscle test yourself or anyone else, you've got to be a neutral. And if you're starting out, I would ask questions about small subjects like, do I buy these oranges or those over there? Do I buy this apple or those over there? Something where you start practicing on subjects that are not a big importance.
Yeah.
So a real simple way, and I'll show you my favorite one. I like to use both hands, because each hand, my right hand is going to access the left side of my brain, and my left hand is going to access the right side of my brain. So a real simple way of doing it is to make an O-ring with one hand and have the other hand pulled together. So I'll say, show me a yes, show me a no. And I'll say, it's in my highest best interest to eat breakfast tomorrow. Yes. Okay. It's in my highest best interest to go to sleep tonight. Yes. So when you're starting out, ask for yes, ask for no, ask for, when you know you're in neutral and you're practicing on subjects that are of not big importance, start by calibrating a yes and a no. So so it's clear to you. And one of the things that I'm always encouraging people to do, you're working with your spiritual guides, and tell your spiritual guides, say, make this so clear and easy that even I can understand. Right? Now, another way that you can do this, this is my pointer finger, and here's my other finger. I can press down right here, and I'll say, show me a yes, and it's going to stay strong. Show me a no, and it's going to slide off like that. Show me a yes, show me a no. It's in my highest best interest to, observe the speed limit on Northside Drive. Yes. It's in my highest best interest to go 70 miles an hour on Northside Drive. No. Right? So you can start by asking simple questions, right? And practice on that. One of my favorite ways to muscle test is to actually use your own body like a pendulum, and you clear your energy. This is what I do. I rub my hands together, and as I rub my hands together, I imagine that I'm gathering chi, gathering energy, and I'm clearing my energy. So I say either silently out loud, I clear my energy in the name of God the Father, Jesus the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Now, I personally grew up in a Christian tradition, and so that's what I say. I always respect other people's spiritual paths. So then you would stand up in the middle of a room, and then you would say to your angels, spiritual guides, show me a yes. And then you're going to pay attention to what happens in your body. Frequently, when you receive a yes response, you're going to feel like you're being slightly pushed forward. And then you're going to say, angels, spiritual guides, please show me a no. And you're going to be slightly pushed back. Or yes could be one way and then another way. But once again, you're going to calibrate a yes or no response before you ask your questions. So you get clear what a yes feels like or what a no feels like. Sometimes for some people, they'll get a certain feeling. I have a friend in Scotland, and when he asks for guidance, what happens is that he sees little dots in his visual field. And when he gets a yes response, the dots will line up. And when he gets a no response, the dots will disperse. So each individual is going to receive guidance in a way that is unique to you. Don't make yourself wrong. What you want to do is pay attention, because it's all about paying attention, and really notice about how your soul is really longing to communicate to you, right? Someone else, if they get a no response, they're going to get a queasy feeling in their solar plexus or in their digestion, right? So there's a lot of different ways to muscle test yourself. And again, in my book, I talk about 5 simple ways to muscle test yourself and all different ways of getting information. And you're just going to find the one that works the best for you. Another way is to snap your fingers. And if it's a yes, it's going to be loud. And if it's no, it's going to get quiet, right?
Wow, this is so cool, because I really do believe that everyone has to do their thing their way, as you know. You can't do it my way. You can't do it the way so-and-so says. You have to be led from within. And one of the things that I noticed that I have to ask you about that I think is so great is, why do you feel it is so important that we show up and get out of our own way?
Okay, yeah, I know you love that question. Well, I remember when I was studying medical intuition, one of my teachers said, what we do is we show up and get out of the way. So what does that mean? When we show up, you're fully present. That means I'm paying attention. When I'm doing my work, I'm focused on the person, whether the person's sitting right in front of me or I'm talking on the phone with them in another country. Today I spoke to somebody and they were in Indiana. We were on the phone and I was reading that person, and she called back because we had worked before and I'd helped her clear money issues and I'd helped her resolve job issues, and she was searching for more information. So by getting out of our way, what is that? What do I mean by that is you want to get your ego mind out of the way. So the ego mind is a part of us who thinks that we know anything, right? I remember probably 4 or 5 years ago, I turned to a friend of mine and I was really despondent because I'm quite a learner and a grower. I'm always studying, always reading. And I turned to this person and I said, I feel like I don't know anything anymore. And he said to me, congratulations, that's a sign of spiritual growth. And I have a chapter in my book about how scientists don't even know for certain the exact size of the universe. So a lot of times we want to fall back on what we think we know or what we think the scientists know. And yet there's so much about life and the universe that is unknown. And this is why when we go into that 96% of the known universe that is not quantifiable, you want to actually operate and seek guidance from the soul. So you're going to be fully present and then set your ego mind out of the way and allow your soul to work through you, to speak through you. And this is where true healing occurs. This is where divine guidance comes through. And a lot of times it's very simple and it's always meant for our highest good.
So one of the things that you have mentioned in your book is that inner conflict is a sign that we are not listening to our own guidance. When someone has inner conflict, maybe they have opposite desires, they can't make up their mind, they're sitting on the fence. What do you advise them to do? A simple technique, because you know, and I know, and everybody out there knows that when you are up to your eyeballs in an emotional situation, you need somebody to throw you a lifesaver. So what do you suggest then? Because it's very important that we all be centered and coming from our true self.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the first thing I would say is to just know for a fact that if you are experiencing inner conflict, then you're not actually completely listening to your soul. So just like if I get into my car and I have a Prius, so if I'm down to like 1 block, fortunately for me, I've never run out of gas in that car, that tells me, Catherine, you need to go to the gas station and put gas in the car, right? And if you are experiencing inner conflict, that means that you do not have all the information that your soul really wants to give you. So one of the things that's very simple that I highly recommend that people do if you find yourself in this place, because we're all human and we do find ourselves in this place a lot of times where we're overwhelmed by the pace of life. We're overwhelmed by a lot of the depression, the pressure. And I do feel like a lot of depression is simply pressure. We live in a really fast-paced life, a lot of stress, a lot of things coming at us all at one time. So one of the simplest things that I recommend and that I do myself are do 2 things: meditate and pray. And I had so much fun when I was writing this book. Personally, I pray quite a bit. When I actually take the time to listen to myself, what I notice is that I tend to pray all day long about all kinds of things. And when I sit down to meditate, the first thing I do is start praying. And when the prayers seem to stop, then I just go into that quiet space. So the book is full of prayers that people can say to ask for guidance and about all kinds of things, guidance about how to find the right career for you, how to find your life purpose, how to find the right partners, whether they be friends or companions. So all different ways that we can pray for guidance. So when I finished up my book, I said the simplest prayer of all is to say, "Dear God, show me the way." And it's important to understand that I feel that a lot of times life breaks us completely open on purpose. So sometimes we go, why is all this happening to me? It's so difficult. It's so overwhelming. I feel like I'm about to be crushed by all this.
Yes.
I feel that life and spirit does that on purpose so that it literally breaks us open so that we, for at least momentarily, whether it's for a second or for a day or for a week or a month, that spirit can pour through us and our guidance can come through so that you break through the hard shell of your ego mind, who you think you are, what you think your life is about, so that this guidance can, and this light of God can shine through and get through to you and come through. And sometimes we have to be humbled enough by life that we just get down on our knees and just say, "Dear God, please show me the way."
Beautiful ending to a wonderful session. Catherine, do you have a copy of the book that you can hold up?
Well, my book, Unlimited Intuition Now, is about to be published in February. I'm hoping that you all will be looking for it on Amazon. I have some of my other books. This is What is Healing? Awaken Your Intuitive Power for Health and Happiness. Right here is Banish the Blues Now. This is all about different ways to heal depression without drugs. That's one of my orchids, by the way. And then this is Unlimited Energy Now, and that is all about how to have more energy. So Unlimited Intuition Now is coming out. I took the photograph myself. It's got a beautiful butterfly on the cover. So thanks for reading and thanks for listening. You can subscribe to my newsletter at catherinecarrigan.com, and you can send me an email to set up an appointment for a free 15-minute consult by emailing Catherine with a C at catherinecarrigan.com.
And I want to thank everybody who is part of our audience. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and I hope you will come back again next week when once again we move into the magic together. Until then, this is Maxine Taylor reminding you that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. See you real soon.